Welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 41, and it's titled, God Goes With Me Wherever I Go. So,
That's a good one.
yeah, it's a very powerful and kind of comforting thought.
It is. And, it's interesting because it really builds on all the lessons that have come before. We are not separate from God. God is within us.
Right.
And, this is just another way of kind of reminding us of that and bringing that into our awareness.
And what's neat about this lesson is that it really focuses on, how this idea can help us overcome, kind of universal human experiences like loneliness and fear and anxiety.
Right.
And it starts off by describing what it's like to believe in separation. Right. So it says, today's idea will eventually overcome completely the sense of loneliness and abandonment which all the separated ones experience. Depression is an inevitable consequence of separation. So are anxiety, worry, a deep sense of helplessness, misery, suffering, and intense fear of loss. The separated ones have invented many, many cures for what they believe to be the ills of the world. But the one thing they do not do is to question the reality of the problem. Yet its effects cannot be cured because it is not real. So what it's saying here is that the root of all of these issues, it's not the world's problems, but the belief in separation itself.
Yeah, and I think that's where A Course in Miracles really departs from more traditional religious teachings.
Okay.
Often in traditional religion, we're taught that, God is somewhere else.
Yeah.
And we need to find our way back to him or her or it, whatever that may be. But Course in Miracles really stresses that separation is an illusion and that God is within us.
So how do we move beyond this illusion? Like, how do we start to see that?
Well, the lesson kind of gives us some clues. So it says,
Okay.
The idea for today has the power to end all this foolishness forever. And foolishness it is, despite the serious and tragic forms it may take. Deep within you is everything that is perfect, ready to radiate through you and out into the whole world. It will cure all sorrow and pain and fear and loss, because it will heal the mind that thought these things were real and suffered out of its allegiance to these beliefs.
So, it's saying that there's this perfect holiness residing within us. But what does that mean?
Right. It's a very interesting concept. I think it's easy to get hung up on that word perfect and think, well, I'm not perfect.
Right, yeah.
I make mistakes. But I don't think it's talking about perfection in that way.
Okay.
It's talking about the fact that at our core, beneath all the layers of ego and personality and conditioning, there is a divine spark. And that is perfect. And that is whole.
So it's not about being flawless. It's about recognizing this core essence that is already whole and complete.
Exactly. And then it goes on to say, you can never be deprived of your perfect holiness because its source goes with you wherever you go. You can never suffer because the source of all joy goes with you wherever you go. You can never be alone because the source of all life goes with you wherever you go. Nothing can disturb your peace of mind because God goes with you wherever you go.
Wow. There's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's drilling this idea into us.
Yeah.
It's repeating it over and over. And it's not just a vague idea that, oh yeah, God's with me.
Right.
It's very specific. It's saying that God's presence is constant. It's unwavering.
It's always there, no matter where we go.
Yeah. That's really powerful. So, I'm sure some people might be listening to this thinking, okay, that sounds great in theory.
Yeah.
But how do I actually experience this?
Right. And the lesson actually acknowledges that.
Yeah. It says, we understand that you do not believe all this. How could you, when the truth is hidden deep within under a heavy cloud of insane thoughts, dense and obscuring, yet representing all you see? Today we will make our first real attempt to get past this dark and heavy cloud and to go through it to the light beyond.
A heavy cloud of insane thoughts. What is that?
Well, I think that's a very vivid image, and it's basically referring to all the mental chatter that we experience all the time.
Yeah, the doubts and the fears and the worries.
Exactly. All the judgments, comparisons, all the things that keep us from seeing the truth of who we are.
So how do we get past this cloud? How do we, quiet that mental chatter?
Well, the lesson gives us a practice to try, and I think this is where it starts to get really interesting.
So it says, there will be only one long practice period today. In the morning, as soon as you get up, if possible, sit quietly for some 3 to 5 minutes with your eyes closed. At the beginning of the practice period, repeat today's idea very slowly. Then make no effort to think of anything. Try instead to get a sense of turning inward, past all the idle thoughts of the world. Try to enter very deeply into your own self, keeping your mind clear of any thoughts that might distract your attention.
So it sounds like it's describing a form of meditation.
It is, but I think there's a slightly different emphasis here.
Okay.
It's not just about quieting the mind, but it's about connecting with this idea, this truth. God goes with me wherever I go.
So we're not just trying to empty our minds. We're using this phrase as a focal point.
Exactly. And it goes on to say, from time to time, you may repeat today's idea if you find it helpful. But most of all, try to sink down and inward, away from the world and from all the foolish thoughts of the world. You are trying to reach past all these things. You're trying to leave appearances and approach reality.
So it seems like it's saying that our thoughts can actually distract us from reality.
In a way, yes. Our thoughts are often based on fear and judgment and limitation.
Yeah.
And they can prevent us from seeing the truth of who we are and the truth of our connection to God.
So by quieting our minds and focusing on this idea, we're essentially moving beyond those limitations and connecting with something deeper.
That's the idea. And what's interesting is that the lesson says that this is actually a natural process.
Okay.
It says, it is quite possible to reach God. In fact, it is very easy because it is the most natural thing in the world. You might even say it is the only natural thing in the world. The way will open if you believe that it is possible. This exercise can bring very startling results even the first time it is attempted, and sooner or later it is always successful. We will go into more detail in connection with this kind of practice as we go along, but it can never fail completely, and instant success is possible.
If it's so natural, why does it often feel so difficult? Like, why do we struggle with this?
I think it's because we've been conditioned to believe that connecting with God requires effort and struggle.
Right.
That we need to earn it somehow.
Yeah, we've made it complicated.
We have. But Course in Miracles is saying, no, it's actually very simple. It's always there. It's just a matter of recognizing it.
So it's like we're remembering something we've forgotten rather than learning something new.
Exactly.
Wow. So how do we start to integrate this awareness into our daily lives? Like, how do we take this beyond the meditation cushion?
Well, the lesson actually gives us some practical suggestions, but I think we can explore those in more detail in the next part of our deep dive.
Sounds good to me. Let's take a break and we'll come back to that.
Okay, so we were talking about how to take this idea that God goes with me wherever I go beyond just, a 5-minute meditation practice.
Like, how do we actually live this?
Yeah. And the lesson gives us a few pointers.
Yeah.
It says, throughout the day, use today's idea often, repeating it very slowly, and preferably with eyes closed. Think of what you are saying, what the words mean. Concentrate on the holiness that they imply about you, on the unfailing companionship that is yours, on the complete protection that surrounds you. You can indeed afford to laugh at fear thoughts, remembering that God goes with you wherever you go.
So it's suggesting that we kind of repeat this idea to ourselves throughout the day.
Like a mantra almost.
Yeah, that makes sense. And to really try to feel the meaning behind the words, not just like, saying them mindlessly.
Right. And I think one of the keys here is that idea of companionship, like really feeling that we're not alone.
Like we have this constant presence with us.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be really helpful when we're going through challenging times.
So, when we're feeling stressed or anxious or afraid, we can remember, okay, I'm not alone in this.
Right. And that can help us to shift our perspective, to kind of step back from the fear and see things more clearly.
I can see how that would be helpful. Like, instead of getting caught up in the drama of the situation, we can tap into the sense of peace that comes from knowing that we're not alone.
Exactly. And the lesson also talks about, being able to laugh at our fear thoughts.
Oh, yeah, that was a really interesting point.
Like not taking them so seriously.
Right. Because when we remember that God goes with us wherever we go, it kind of puts things in perspective. Like, those fears don't seem so big anymore.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point, because sometimes we can get so caught up in our fears that we forget that there's this greater power, this greater presence that's always with us.
And that can really limit us. Like, if we let fear control us, it can prevent us from doing things that we might otherwise want to do.
Exactly. And so by remembering that we're not alone, that we have this constant support, we can start to move beyond those limitations and really live more fully.
It's funny because when I think about this idea of God going with me wherever I go, it makes me think about how I interact with other people.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Well, sometimes I catch myself judging other people or getting annoyed with them.
Yeah, I think we all do that from time to time.
But then I remember that, God goes with them wherever they go too.
Right. And that can be a real game changer.
Yeah, because it makes me realize that, they're not so different from me. They're also on their own journey. And they're also trying to find their way.
And they're also carrying that divine spark within them.
Exactly. And so it makes me want to be more compassionate, more understanding.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that's really the essence of what this lesson is trying to teach us.
And it's not always easy.
Yeah.
Right? Like sometimes it's really hard to see that divine spark in other people.
Especially when they're doing things that we don't agree with or that we find hurtful.
Right. But I think the more we practice this idea, the easier it becomes. And the more we start to see that interconnectedness, that oneness.
Exactly. And that's what can really bring about a shift in our relationships.
Yeah. Because when we can see past the differences and the judgments, we can start to connect with each other on a deeper level.
Right. And that's where true healing can happen, both for ourselves and for the world around us.
This has been a really thought-provoking conversation. I'm grateful for your insights.
It's been a pleasure, and I think there's still so much more to explore with this lesson.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to continue diving deeper into these ideas.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground in this lesson. It's really amazing how much depth there is to this simple idea that God goes with me wherever I go.
It is, isn't it? And it's not just an idea, it's an experience.
Right. It's something we can actually feel and know.
And when we do, it changes everything.
I think that's what's so powerful about A Course in Miracles. It's not just theoretical. It's very practical.
Yeah. It gives us tools that we can use in our everyday lives to transform our experience.
And this lesson, in particular, I think it offers a lot of hope.
In what way?
Well, because it reminds us that we're not alone, that we have this constant presence with us, supporting us, guiding us.
No matter what we're going through.
Yeah, exactly. And that can be really comforting, especially when we're facing challenges.
I think it also challenges us to look at our relationships differently.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, when we remember that God goes with everyone wherever they go, it makes it harder to judge them, to see them as separate from us.
Right. It's like it breaks down those barriers that we often put up between ourselves and others.
Exactly. And that can lead to more compassion, more understanding, more forgiveness.
And ultimately, I think it can lead to more peace, both in our individual lives and in the world as a whole.
I agree. I think that's really the ultimate goal of A Course in Miracles, to help us find that inner peace that comes from knowing who we truly are.
And from remembering that we're all connected.
To that divine source that is within us all.
Well, this has been a truly enlightening conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights.
My pleasure. It's always a joy to explore these teachings.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey into A Course in Miracles. We encourage you to revisit Lesson 41 and to really sit with the idea that God goes with me wherever I go. See how it feels in your body, in your mind, in your heart. And notice how it might shift your perspective, your relationships, and your experience of the world. Until next time, may you find peace and joy in the awareness of God's constant presence.
I woke up to a